Hi there. I am Scott Johnson. I am the state organizer for Indiana 5051. With me is the Helpful Hippie. And she is our district representative for district, I think we're 8, right?
Yes.
Okay.
8.
AKA Evansville. And what we've done with the organization of Indiana 5051 is we have opted to organize first at the state level, second at the congressional district level, and this is our first other district other than 7 or 5, which is Indianapolis. I can never get the numbers right. I'm a programmer. I'm always off by 1 or 2. And I came down to Evansville today because the Helpful Hippie was having some issues in her district, and I believe in you support your leaders. So I got in the car. I came down. It's a very quick and easy 3.5-hour drive. Who knew the state was so big? And tell us about Evansville and Evansville resistance.
Yeah, I'm Helpful Hippie, and I'm mainly based out of Evansville, but all of the district. I try to keep an eye on everything near me, around me, all the way up. I know it's a weird district because we're really long and skinny. Mm-hmm. We're the weird district, so there's a lot of counties, and we figured that out whenever we were trying to make the events list. You know, there are way more counties in Indiana than I even knew. It's a massive state. Which is kind of why I made Evansville Resistance. I kept seeing so much going on in Indy, so many protests and things I couldn't get to myself. You know, I shop and deliver groceries here. People depend on me every single week. I can't go 3 hours at the drop of a hat multiple times a week. You know, people will go without things if I do that. But I can organize here. I can organize in my community. So that's what I did. I was in HHRI, and then that kind of morphed into organizing at an even more local level with just Evansville, and I started Evansville Resistance just as a place for people to not feel alone. That's really what I wanted to make at first, because the group I originally started was way before even the inauguration, after he got elected. You know, I felt broken, alone. My whole family, like Trump. My whole family supported him. And
I'm so sorry.
It's bad. I'm not even speaking to my mom right now because of it all. You know, I haven't seen most of my family in a long time, and I know a lot of other people are going through that. And that's why I made the group, because we all felt alone and had no idea what we could even do about this. You know, how do you stand up to a dictator? How do you do that? How? And people still are asking that question in my groups.
Can I raise my hand on this?
Yeah.
One? Stand together, die alone.
Yeah.
Period, the end. We get through this with the power of community.
Yeah.
What we have seen in 5051 in Indiana is a tremendous outcropping of smart individuals who actually care. And what they have done is they have come together and they are trying to solve our way out of this problem. Now, I cannot tell you that it will work. I am not that kind of prescient. What I can tell you is that we're going to make some noise and we're going to do some good things. And what these smart individuals are doing is they're tackling little aspects of the problem bit by bit. We're seeing the same thing in your group.
Yeah.
And this is the beauty of bringing people together. You let them chew away at a problem, they will generate an enormous amount of message traffic. And yes, that is okay, because that is the intellectual back and forth that gives us an answer.
Yes.
Exactly. And, you know, we are doing this, we're doing this old school internet wise. We're distributed, we're anarchic, we're chaotic, and it's pretty damn amazing.
It is. It really is. Seeing the amount of people that have just come together, that divide and conquer, many hands make light work, that's the mentality we have to have here, It's not just one person who's accomplishing any of this. All of this is possible because so many amazing people have come together, lend their time, their talents, their heart, and literally everything they have to this movement, because it's people who just really believe in it. We're not paid. We're not convinced by anyone. I know, I wish I was paid. I love that one. That's my favorite one, that we're paid to do that. I literally, after the second protest I hosted, I had to work a 14-hour day to pay a bill because I took off too much work planning the protest. I was at work until 9 p.m. that night
Yep.
just grinding, hustling. And, that's what I do for a living. I hustle, I make money gig working, because I want the freedom to be able to work when I want to work and be able to do this, right?
Yep.
So I put that same hustle into what I'm doing here, and so does everyone around me. I mean, it's amazing. Some of us are up until 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning, and right back up at 8, right back up at 7. I mean, just doing it again, and that's what it's going to take. People that are that dedicated, and not everyone can be, and I get that, but some of us have to be. Some of us do, and the ones that are, we need to embrace that. Let them work and get out of their way, while working together, of course. But there are some of us that we know what to do and we're doing it, and that's what we're doing here. We're figuring out what needs to be done, delegating it to someone who knows how to do that, and letting them run with it.
Yep.
Do it. Just go.
What we're looking for is we want everybody to participate to the degree that both they can and the degree to which they feel safe. Yeah. Okay? I don't think anyone should not feel safe because they're part of a legal protest movement. So, some people are going to be like me. They're going to be up there doing the marching and the chanting, and that's fine. Other people are going to be in the back, and they're going to be support people. They're going to take an aspect of a problem, they're going to solve it, get us the results, and then move on and do the next thing. Now, in any movement, the people who are visible, they're the ones who get all the glory, and that's horrible. Because if you've ever looked at how anything happens in the world, there's always a visible person, and then behind that visible person, there's a dozen or more people supporting them. And supporting them can be anything from doing the work towards, picking up a kid from school so the other person doing the work can keep going, to helping out. And it's just amazing when you see a non-fiscal collective come together. And this is something we don't see a lot in America.
Yeah. Right?
Because normally we are all oriented around commerce. Okay? Because America is a capitalist society. And there's nothing, well, there's some things wrong with that, but it's what we got. But when you see people come together out of passion, out of something they care about, man, it is just magic.
It really is. It really is. Yeah, I'm not a super fan of capitalism, but that's because I'm a hippie.
It's an interesting debate.
Yeah, I think some things we just should do for people.
So
split the money, whatever. There's just some things we need to do if we're going to come together as a society. Some things I want to make money off too.
Yeah, I mean, and that is a whole separate discussion, right? I could argue about the needs for capital, et cetera, right? Because I am I have been a card-carrying capitalist in my life.
Well, and that's why this movement works, because so many people are coming in here with different perspectives,
yep.
different points of view, different way of seeing it and solving a problem. And so we're able to really tackle these big issues with a million different eyes on it, right? Yeah. So I really like that, and that's something we really have to work on in our movement as a whole. There's a lot of people who are fighting within each other, within our ranks, within our groups, and that's something we really need to get away from.
Yeah.
We didn't come here to fight each other. We came here to fight the administration, the oligarchy, fascism. That's what we're doing, and I think a lot of people really need to remember that.
Okay, I want to push on that, and I want to look at it from a perspective of privilege. Because I am the canonical, successful white dude, okay? You are both female and physically small. And I wonder how that affects your experience in a protest movement.
Yeah, it's really, a lot of people when they meet me, they're surprised to see me that I didn't expect you to be that little. I have a big personality. My voice is really big. I don't shut up. And my whole life I've been pushed into a box and told I need to be smaller. So, this is actually kind of personal for me, finding my voice in this movement. Because my whole life I've been told that that's just the way it is. That's the world is the way it is. You just got to deal with it. The way you think is backwards and wrong, and you're just a hippie. You need to act like a lady and be nice and quiet and listen and be good. And that's never been me. you know? And so it is challenging too, even in this movement, with people who are supposed to be pro-women, who are supposed to be supportive, who are they still question whether or not a woman should lead. And question, I have experiences sometimes in these groups, and I'm just like, I wonder if I'd be getting this pushback if I were a man. And the truth is, like, I wouldn't be considered bossy and opinionated and authoritative if I was a man. I wouldn't be considered to just be using my voice too much and being overbearing if I was a man. And you know, that's something that needs to change too within our ranks, is a leader's a leader.
That is correct.
And most of the time, leaders don't choose to be leaders. I didn't. I made a Facebook group so people wouldn't feel alone. And what I had to say, people just started sharing and listening to and joining and wanting to know what we were doing. And you know, I was fully prepared when I planned that first protest on 129 to stand alone. Yep. Macy made a flyer, but it was, you know, everyone was planning the 129 and I couldn't go.
Yep.
So I was like, Macy, I will plan the protest for you. Give me the information. Tell me what is this with? What is this about? And we hadn't even heard of 5051 at that point, you know? And I was prepared to stand alone at that protest. I funded it. I got there. I did it. I put it on. I had a few close friends helping. And we pulled it off. We did it. There were only 20 of us. Our second one had 150. The women's rally had 344 in a very red county, like a very red city. People don't realize, you know, down here in the southern half of Indiana, it is red. Red. I mean, we still have KKK meetings here in Boonville at the courthouse.
Oh man.
Legitimately, they post flyers for them. Like, I almost got arrested at the Boonville Library by Mr. Musmer.
Okay, so I don't mean to laugh, but the absurdity of it all, right?
Yeah.
We live right now in a time of irony and paradox, right? This is just, it's all madness. But I want to call back to one of the things you said. You said, I made a Facebook group. I didn't expect to be a leader, right? And what I would contend is that what you did is you stood up, okay? And here's how I arrived here. I had the election happen, and I woke up the next morning and it felt like I'd been slugged in the gut because I couldn't believe we were back here again. I spent from the election through the inauguration doom scrolling and getting more and more upset. And then I saw, and my wife was, everything that I've thought, my wife has thought earlier and more wisely than me. She's been utterly prescient on this. And then I saw a post for the first, the 2-5 rally, 2-5 protest at the Indianapolis courthouse. And my wife and I said, yeah, we want to be there. So at the end of that event, which I found to be, for me, it was a wow moment, right? Because I've been entirely politically disaffected my entire life. My one thing I did was I voted for Perot because I wanted a third party. Now, and love Perot or not, he was at least a chance to have a third party. Which we need. Now, at the end of the 2-5 protest, I went and I figured out who was running it. It was a guy named Christian Hess, and old school people who have been here remember him. I've got some claps there. Christian, hi Christian. I went over to him and I saw him, and I noticed that he had been kind enough to bring water and snacks because he recognized that protesting is actually a physical activity. It's hard. And
I brought punch and pie.
There you go. And so I just walked over to him and I said, thank you. And then I took $40 out of my pocket and I gave it to him. Because I said to him, you shouldn't both do the work and have to cover the expenses yourself, right? That's just wrong. And then I asked him, could we have lunch? And he was awful busy, so kind of demurred, but I got his contact info, and then I persistently followed the hell up. And we had coffee at Jaffa Coffee in Noblesville, which is a fantastic Muslim coffee house, highly recommended. They're very much pro all this stuff, and I think I got that name wrong, and if I didn't, please someone put it in the comments because you'll tell me when I'm wrong, and I love you for that. And Christian and I realized that we were ideologically aligned. Okay, now I'm 57, Christian's probably early 30s. And so I had some skills that he didn't, he has some skills that I didn't. And somehow I sort of became his de facto right hand. And then on, I think it was March 7, because right now it's March 20, Christian raised his hand to me and said, I'm done. Can you do this? Okay, thanks, bye. And that's how I ended up as the guy in charge, and I've now been officially anointed by 5051 National. Now, the point here, and the point I'm making, I took the long route around, is leaders stand up. That's it, right? A leader doesn't look like me. It doesn't look like her. A leader is the person that stands up, okay? So if you want to know how you rise in the movement, you stand up. You do the right thing, okay? And that might be you find an injustice that you want to address. It might be you figure something out. It might be that you're incredibly active on our Signal chat. Hi, Morgan. Hi, Nancy. We watch you, and you guys do good stuff. Thank you. All right. So back to what you were saying about being a woman. Are you finding that the men in your organization are more supportive of you, or the women in the organization are more supportive of you?
The men, typically. Men are not afraid to be led by women.
Okay.
And I found that in most instances.
Okay.
In everything that I've done, when I was in college, when I was working almost every job I've ever done,
Yep.
More often than not, it is the women who go after other women. And I don't know why this is. You know, we all claim to be girls, but then in action, some of us aren't. For the most part, I mean, you know, most people are amazing in the movement, you know, but I mean, even in 5051, we've seen issues with, people just attacking each other for no reason. Small ideological differences turn into like this, irrefutable, I can't work with you attitude. And we need to get away from that.
We absolutely do.
So much. And it's, I feel like there's also this desire for everyone to want to be the leader. Mm-hmm. Everybody wanting to be the boss. Mm-hmm. And I don't think that people really understand what goes into that role. Everything in my life has taken a back seat.
Yep.
Everything. While I'm shopping orders for clients, I have my work phone here and my resistance phone here. And I'm shopping. I got somebody on the earbud, and I'm shopping orders, and I'm trying. My kids have taken a backseat. My husband has taken a backseat. My family, everything that I do now is resistance focused, and not in an unhealthy way, but in my switch has been activated way. I can't stop. Like you said, you woke up with a pit in your stomach. Yep. Well, I've had a pit in my stomach since 2016. I was doing this when Bernie came to Evansville. Yep. I hugged Bernie and cried right across the street at Old National Event Center and thanked him for standing up for us and told him he better win. And he didn't. He would make it through past the primaries, But I've been doing this for a long time. I've been standing up for a long time, and so I know what I'm doing. Yes. I know how to do this. I know how to organize people. I know how to rally people, and I have something to say, and I don't plan on stopping. Well, good, right?
I mean, I'm a person for whom the system worked. Economically, I should be aligned with the other side. Ethically, I cannot be. Okay, and. When all this started to happen, my wife and I sat down and we said, we've got some resources. We wrote ourselves a budget, and we said we can spend up to that much, and then we'll reevaluate, right? I'm old enough to remember there was a time when people of means actually did something with it, right? Besides buy, yachts, right? Which is just the most pathetic thing ever. Jeff Bezos. And we do have some rich people in this country doing good things. Yeah. Mackenzie Scott Bezos is doing amazing charity work. She is giving away money in the $1 billion range. Okay. Laureen Powell Jobs funded The Atlantic, which is doing some of the best journalism around next to Wired. But I would love to see more people actually open their pocketbooks and spend some money. Now, this brings us to a question that is being constantly asked. And the question is, can I give you money, Indiana 5051? And the answer is no, you cannot. No, please do not. No, no, no. If you want to give us money, give it to Food Not Bombs. Okay, they show up at our protests. They are awesome. They are intelligent, and they make sandwiches with cheese and hummus and lettuce, and it's great. I never thought I'd say that about a sandwich. Good God. What we want are gifts. Okay, now here's what I mean by this. When you build an organization that does charitable work, there are a couple of charitable work in the political field. There are a couple of different ways that organization is structured, and I will mangle this a little bit. Okay, but I did get this information from a very good source. Thank you, Michelle Higgs. So you can be a 501c3, you can be a 501c4, or you can be a political action committee, or you can be some combination of all of these things in an insane amount of rules layering. All of these forms of organizations come with restrictions on speech and on action. And I run an anarchic collective, and when I say run, I just mean I'm like the chief cat herder for this herd of cats, okay? And sometimes they, raise up and scratch the hell out of me, and that's okay too. But I do not think that it is appropriate that we actually have any restrictions on us, because restrictions are how we got here. So what we're doing, and we haven't put all the pieces in place yet, is we're going to mobilize our Signal Forum software to allow people to post I need this for this purpose, right? There's going to be a vetting process on that, because we do not want anyone scamming our users. Okay, so you're going to come to the admins and you're going to say, this is my proposal and here it is. And if we think it looks good, we're going to approve it and give you the permission rights to post in the software in a certain forum, which will be called We Need. And then members of the community may or may not stand up. Let them vote. Okay, let them spend their money. Now, they may choose to use a crowdfunding tool to make this work. If you want to start a GoFundMe and you're for doing something, that's fine. I don't want any part of that, and the reason is that if you're on the protest side of this, we all know that there is a ticking clock on our faces, right? And it's, when will the administration single us out? Now, when I said 501c3, 501c4, PAC, all of those forms of organization can be audited by the IRS. And if you think that the administration will not weaponize the IRS against us, you're not paying attention. They will. So my solution is, I want money out of the equation, right? I will keep doing what I'm doing by hook or by crook. People will help us or not. And what I will do is I will avoid being sued into oblivion, because anyone who's been audited by the IRS knows that it basically constitutes a full stop activity for everything you do, because all you can do is, comply with the requests. And I am not a paperwork junkie. I am a horrible accountant. So I'm playing to my strengths. And my strengths in this case are just energy and motivation and a high degree of technical competence. So when you want to give us money, give it to somebody else, or hang on to it and spend it on the things we actually raise our hand and say, please, sir, I need this. Now we have our 4-5 protests, or April 5th protests coming up. There will be things we need. Some of them will be for Indianapolis area. Some of them will be for her area, okay? And as we are ready, things will post. We will initially opt everyone on the Signal into that, okay? And if you want to opt out and never be bothered by spam, that's fine. You can opt out. But we're gonna seed it and make it work, right? And that's a deliberate choice on my part. So if you're pissed at that, you know how to find me. You know how to tell me I'm wrong. Okay. Can you tell us something about your last protest?
The last one was really fun. It was actually a rally.
Okay.
It was the Women's Day rally, and we came together to celebrate women's rights. I actually got my first Votes for Women sash,
awesome.
Which I will be wearing dressed as a suffragette to
Fabulous.
the suffragette reenactment march.
Good.
That is on the 30th here in Evansville. I have nothing to do with putting it on. That's a completely different organization.
You're just a cosplayer.
Yeah, I'm just a cosplayer. I'm just having fun.
Okay.
I'm just having fun, and I can't wait. But that protest, it was amazing. It was our most attended protest to date, or event to date. I keep calling it a protest. It was for women's rights. But because we're a protest group, we had a counter at that one. That was probably the highlight of that one.
Yeah.
Not in a good way. He had
not a counting counter, a counter protester.
Counter.
Okay.
Yeah, a guy who stood against us
Okay.
celebrating women's rights. Yeah.
Okay.
He showed up with a 50-foot flag that said "Trump Save America."
Oh no,
Yeah.
not that kind of idiot.
Yeah, and he also made a whole lot of directed posts at different people in our group. His really stands against me and everything I stand for.
Okay.
We have had counters at every event we do, even thanking veterans, Scott.
I know. How do you be contra someone thanking veterans, right? As I said, paradox and irony just surrounds this.
It's insane. But that event was amazing, especially as a woman being there and seeing so many other amazing women. We had so many people who attended that rally who have been standing up for women's rights, for decades.
Okay.
I got to meet a lot of women who've been through a lot of things. Like a lot of our speakers, they were talking about very personal experiences.
Mm-hmm.
One of our speakers, Martina, she grew up in German-occupied areas in her childhood in Europe. I can't remember her whole story right now, but I mean, she has told us some amazing things about what it's like to actually live under fascism. It's given me a unique perspective and made me realize why nonviolence is so important, because we really don't understand what that is like.
What the violent side is?
What the violent side is like. I mean, how terrifying that really is. Hearing it from the perspective of someone who has experienced it firsthand. But she spoke at our rally about living under fascism, and it was so powerful.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, you hear the stories of how women are mistreated here and what they have to go through here, right? All the time at our events. We hear different stories from different people, but it was really unique to hear from the perspective of someone who has actually lived through what we are sliding into in a very real way, and ran here to escape it.
And now it's back.
And it's back, and she can't believe she's having to fight it again,
I hear you.
She was even afraid to speak at the rally. It took her a very long time to decide if she would. This area, it's a scary area.
Okay.
People, it's a no-fire state here a fire at will state here in Indiana, right?
Nope.
So people are worried about their jobs. They're worried about their how they look. I myself have lost clients.
Yep. All right. So, damn, that is just thought-provoking. So I'm going to seize on one aspect of this. In case you're coming in late and you don't understand 5051, 5051 stands for 50 states, 50 capitals, 1 protest, and it is 100% nonviolent.
Yes.
Okay? The nonviolent thing has to be emphasized, and we are profoundly nonviolent, and the reason for that is we go out there and we boldly claim we are the resistance. Now, if you think that's not going to put you on a list in America, you're not paying attention, right? So we have to make sure that we are nonviolent. And, at our second or third event, we had a bunch of guys showed up in support carrying AR-15s. And we were freaked out. We asked them to go, and they went. And God bless them for their support, right? Their hearts were in the right place. They were concerned about us. But what we didn't want was a counter-protester to show up to them and then something bad to happen, right? So when you come to one of our events, you're not going to have a stick, other than the one that carries the sign. You're not going to have a bat. You're not going to have a weapon. And if you do, please go away, right? Go find a friend who wants to do that with you.
Yes.
Right?
It is not
5051.
Or Evansville Resistance.
Or Evansville Resistance.
At all. I get a lot of flack on that too. And I understand there are 2 factions in this movement.
No.
There are. It is split. But find a group for that.
Yep.
Find a group for that. This is the path that we are taking.
That's correct.
And this is the path that we're going to stick to. You know,
Right.
it doesn't mean we're weak. I just made a video about this on my Facebook too. It doesn't mean we're weak.
Yep.
Do you know it takes so much strength to remain nonviolent in a world like this?
In a world like this, I understand the desire, okay? But the one thing I will point out to people, the closest analog we've got to our administration turning violent would be the Kent State protests in the early 60s. And in Kent State, 59 shots were fired, okay? It is my understanding that those were from bolt-action rifles. We are now 60 plus years later, and the weaponry the government has arrayed against us is so much better, right? A 3-man tactical squad with a belt-fed gun could easily mow all of us down. So we're going to keep it absolutely nonviolent, right? Because we don't stand a chance if the government wants to bring out the weapons, right? We can talk about, we can play guns and we can talk about it. Do not take that out of context there, people. But if we're talking about, keeping ourselves safe, the best thing we can do is we march and we chant and we be nonviolent. Now, one of the things that some people don't understand, because I've seen the Reddit posts where they make fun of my protests, right? Hi, Reddit.
Mine too.
And they say, well, these people are disorganized and their signs are incoherent, et cetera, et cetera. And you know what? You're right, Reddit. They are. But I would argue that today, in March 20th, 2025, that's actually kind of the point. What we are doing right now is we are building a movement, and a movement requires action. And our action is protests and marches. And what is coming out of that is an organization which is using that movement to source people. If you show up at our protests, and you've got a particularly witty sign that shows you actually put the effort in, one of us is going to find you and give you a business card, okay? And we're not going to put you on a mailing list. We're going to give you a business card, and if you come back to us, we know you're really interested. If you go give an ad hoc speech, like Blythe Potter did at the ad hoc 314 veterans protest.
Love her.
She's amazing.
She is.
You're going to get asked back to speak again, right? And hopefully we're going to suck you in, and we're going to just love on you and say, please come help us, okay? Blythe Potter was the person at the veterans protest that brought me to tears.
Yeah.
Okay, and I don't cry real easy, or I didn't used to. I do all the time now. So just remember, this is a sourcing function. It is finding talent. It is bringing talent together. Okay, whether it's in Indianapolis or in Evansville or the next stop of my day, which is Bloomington, right? Because when I say we're doing this at the congressional district level, I actually mean that, right? We were going to put leaders in every congressional district in the state, and then they're going to build their own mini versions of what we're doing in these two places. And then ultimately we drive it down to the town level, right? Because the only, and the thesis driving all this, there is a scholar out of Harvard, a PhD level professor named Chenoweth, and I can never remember her first name. And what she has said is that to bring down an authoritarian regime, there are two ways. There is the violence, which is actually not always successful. And then there is the social uprising and the pressure. And what she has found is that invariably across the board, and she's crunched the numbers, a 3.5% protest of the population brings down the dictators. Okay?
53% of the time versus a non-violent or a violent protest, which only works 26% of the time.
There you go, right?
I know the statistics.
Okay. You can cite them better than I can, and that's awesome. So the goal here is to raise 3.5% of the population nationwide and in Indiana. So what does that look like? Well, I didn't want to do the math, so I asked ChatGPT to solve the problem for me. And what ChatGPT told me, and I'm pretty sure it's right because I did fact check it, is we need 11.5 million people per the country, and we need 288,000 in Indiana. So that is my remit. I want to raise 288,000 people in the state of Indiana, marching in the streets, demonstrating in the streets, dancing, doing whatever. And what I hope is I hope to see our current local governments go, oh, fuck, maybe I need to listen, or maybe I need to step down.
Yeah.
And I hope that it happens nationally too. Now, I might be a naive optimist, right? This might be a pipe dream, but I don't know what else to do, so I'm going to work my ass off to make that happen, and I'm going to lean on everybody watching this to do it. We want your time, we want your energy, we want your gifts, okay? But we only want the gifts we tell you about, because we do not want to take anything from you that you need. And what we really want is your time and your energy, because America has to go from having a political system based on capitalism to a political system based on collective action.
Yes.
All right.
And democracy requires action.
It
We have
does.
forgotten that, and that's why we're here. That's why we're here, because a lack of participation. This is what we should have been doing all along.
That is correct.
Organizing on a community level, that's what we need to be doing, and we just haven't been.
We have not. Now, I'm going to ask you about a difficult thing, and if you want to opt out of talking about it, that's entirely fine. You have told me that you have a regular annoyance / stalker. Do you want to talk about that at all?
We actually have a couple people who I've made fans with. There is a gentleman who...
And fans is sardonic.
Yeah,
correct?
sardonic. Very, very, very sarcastic. Absolutely. No, these people do not like me. I find that most of the people who don't like me, it's just like old white dudes. Like, I'm pissing off a lot of old white Christian dudes,
Shocking.
especially. So there's one gentleman, and I didn't know that a video of me existed in connection with him until his daughter reached out. But we were approached after the second protest while we were gathering up by this gentleman who had a camera out, and he was trying, I guess he had walked the entire riverfront trying to find me, the leader. And so everyone just told him, find the hippie, find Christina, she's up there. So he finally finds me and starts asking me, what are you guys doing here? What's going on? And, I had been in interview mode because I do the press for us too. So I'm just answering him like he's a guy from the press,
Mm-hmm.
And quickly we caught on that he was asking really leading weird questions. I'm like, why would you ask me that way? What are you doing? And so we immediately just cut it and wouldn't talk to him. Well, he kept, shoving the phone in people's faces, almost hit two of my girls in the face with his phone. We continued to ignore him, but he stayed there for a while while we cleaned up, and finally went away. Apparently, when he left the parking lot, he almost hit people with their car. It was a fiasco. I didn't think much of it.
And this was the Bible thumping idiot,
Yeah,
right?
yes. I didn't think much of it, right? So just a few days ago, and this was recently, just a few days ago, I get a message on Instagram, and this girl said, "Oh, thank God I found you. Were you the girl who did the protests?" And I said, "Yeah, that was me." And so she sends me this big, long message about her father.
Mm-hmm.
This man.
Oh, no.
Tells me about the video that exists on YouTube. And it's of me and my whole group after our protest. It's nothing embarrassing, but it's just like he plastered Bible verses all over our faces on the video. And I went to the rest of his videos, and it's basically just him sitting in a rocking chair reading out of the Bible.
Okay.
So he's definitely a special feller.
Okay. So...
And his daughter did say that he feels some kind of way about me, and he will probably be back, and that he is capable of violence.
Okay.
So, and then Mr. Boatman has a vendetta against me as well, the flag man.
Okay. So I'm going to make a couple observations. Now, I protest daily. As long as I'm not doing something else. I am at the Tesla dealership in Castleton, usually from 11 to 1, sometimes it's 11 to 12 if we've got a lunch meeting. If you want to find me, that is my de facto office space now. In my analysis of the MAGA folk, there are two types. There are the indoctrinated, and these are the people who have watched Fox News for so long that they no longer realize that it's not true. As an example, one of my signs shows the 25 or 30 places in the world where Tesla's full self-driving mode has actually killed people. And I had somebody tell me how, well, that's actually okay because having full self-driving probably saves more lives than not having it. So this is just kind of the cost of doing business. I don't think an automobile should deliberately kill someone, ever. To me, that makes it a murder machine.
Did you know they're hot glued?
Oh, I do.
My husband's a mechanic, and
Yep.
he took them apart, and he was appalled. He was like, I don't even have a hot glue gun here at the shop. How am I supposed to put it back together?
It gets better than that. Apparently, the new Cybertrucks, the panels, because Elon doesn't want rivets, they're all hot glued together. And apparently that hot glue fails in real cold climates, and you can be driving down the highway in your Cybertruck, and the panels can fall off, right? Good job engineering there, Elon. Anyway, so there's two types. There's the indoctrinated, and you can argue with them. You won't change their mind, but they will actually listen. And I actually kind of have nice conversations with them sometimes, right? Because they'll shake my hand and they'll talk to me. Now, sometimes there's a gender bias there, and they might not do it to you.
Yeah, that's the biggest thing with me, because most people who are in that way of thinking, they already have a preconceived notion about women. I belong in a kitchen. I belong away, out of public eye.
Okay, now the other ones are the crazies. And any woman of sort of adult age or actually almost of any age knows that there are some men out there that are just crazy. Okay? And so my advice to people when they're dealing with this is figure out initially whether you're dealing with an indoctrinated person or a crazy. Because an indoctrinated person is not likely to harm you. They're likely to be annoying. A crazy, Lord knows, right? And my best advice to you when you're dealing with the crazy is get the hell away. Other things that you do are you lock down your personal safety, right? You make sure that your windows have not just locks on them, but I recommend what's called a window stick. That's a piece of wood that fills the space between the top of the window and the bottom, and it prevents the window from going up, right? Because all these people are cowards and they don't want to make a lot of noise, right? If they can slip in and hurt you, they will. But if they can't force that window up, so much the better.
Yeah.
Be careful walking your cars alone.
Buddy system.
Right? Now, any woman out there knows exactly what I'm saying, right? So this advice kind of is for the men who are watching it, who are watching this, who have women in their lives to help keep them safe, right? Not that a woman needs a man to help keep her safe, but we all need someone around us, right? So window sticks, always lock your doors, right? Always lock your car. You might want to carry pepper spray.
I do.
You might want to have an air horn. As a general rule of thumb, you might want to have a safety whistle. It's why we give away safety whistles at every protest. If you can call attention to yourself, you're much less likely to be hurt.
Yeah.
Because mostly these people are cowards. Now, when you have a real stalker, a real crazy, I have a whole number of suggestions. I don't want to put them on this video because that would allow people to figure out what's being done. So if you really have a concern about this, if you've got a crazy stalker in your life, get in touch with me and I'll give you the same tip sheet that I gave her. Because there are things that can be done that are pretty interesting. And I know you're smiling, so.
Some of them are tactics I've already employed by,
All right. This is now 43 minutes and 8 seconds, which is probably longer than anyone wants to listen to me.
Yeah, and me.
Thank you everybody for listening. And Indiana 5051, my name's Scott Johnson. You can find me on the Signal. You can find me anywhere. Find me on Facebook. And if you are looking to do leadership, if you're in a congressional district that we aren't representing in yet, find us. We want you.
Yes.
Right? Picture that old Uncle Sam. We want you. Because we need leaders to step up.
Yes.
Thank you so much, everybody. Bye.